So this today's material is kind of the capstone. I mean, we still have two classes left after this one, but this is really where we bring a lot of the stuff together and cover some of the finer points. Oops, where'd we go? So we're talking about today really just revolves around these CRUD operations: create, update, and create, read, update, and delete. This goes hand in hand with what we call RESTful operations. REST is it's not quite an acronym, it's not quite an acrostic, but it stands for representative state transfer. This was something that invented in the year 2000 as part of some students' PhD thesis. If you're curious, just check out Wikipedia. I always mention this just because it's so funny to me because, I started my undergraduate degree in 1996, and I remember looking for a job after, having gained these basic skills. And so many people, circa 2003, were looking for so many years of experience of the restful paradigm. And they were looking for 5, 6 years experience, and it hadn't been around for that long. So it's just one of these funny things I can't help but mention just because it's just so silly, right? It didn't even last that long. So as part of making your application RESTful, making it so that you can create, read, update, and delete your resources, we have to have an understanding of how to get data straight from the URL. So this is not unlike using a GET request. And hopefully you recall the GET is different from the POST in that all that information is stored in the URL itself. It's not sent as part of the package along with the request. It's plainly visible inside of the URL. Another part, and this is kind of, wrapping all things up. You're going to find a lot of the time that when you're creating your views, you're going to start repeating code. So we don't like to repeat ourselves. We know that something's wrong when we start replicating lines. So we use these partial views to dry up our code. So I think today my intention was to drop in and out of the slides, but I think since there's so few of them, I'll sort of go over, and hopefully all of these points that we cover during the slides or over the course of the slides will become clear in the demo. So yeah, all these pandas just resting there. The World Wide Web is very much a cobbling together of weird old technologies, because the web goes back to about 1989 with the CERN Institute in Switzerland. This is a physics scientific research institute. They are primarily concerned with nuclear energy, I think. And they're also the same ones responsible for the Hadron Collider. I could be wrong about that, but if you're up on your cutting edge research, again, check it out on Wikipedia, verify what I'm saying is true. So going back to 1989, we had much more modest aspirations for our web applications, and they really couldn't even be properly called web applications. But as we've progressed, this is circa 2000, the way our expectations keep getting higher and higher and higher, and we have to find new ways to address this. And we can't go back and change anything. We just have to build with what we've got. And that's how we ended up with REST, because we have this stateless HTTP protocol. We want to be able to, perform actions on the database, but there's no innate way within the tools that we've been provided to do this. So someone comes along and creates this idea of REST. And, for all practical purposes, this is what it looks like. And I have to confess, I really didn't fully understand this until I got involved with Ruby on Rails, which is kind of like the big brother to Sinatra. Not that it's any better, it's just that it's much more rigid in how you build a web application. Sinatra, of course, is much more flexible. It's a little bit, arguably a little bit easier to learn. But if we're going to make a RESTful application, we basically adopt the same practices. So to create, read, update, and delete, we need these 7 different routes with their accompanying HTTP verbs. And you'll see the ones that you recognize. You'll see get, you'll see post, and you'll probably remember me just from having said, if you want to update something, you're using a put or a patch request. If you want to remove something, then you make a delete request. And tied to each of these HTTP verbs is a route in your web application. So if you're looking at this one, so we just want to show all the posts. This is a simple GET request, and you can probably imagine in your actions.rb, you're going to say get/posts, which you've probably seen in your Finstagram application. Then you're going to have an instance variable called posts, and you're going to retrieve it from the database saying post.all or something similar. If you want to paginate these things, because you might potentially have thousands of posts, you're only going to want to display maybe 10 or 20 at a time. But to keep things simple, we just retrieve everything at the moment. On the flip side, I guess that's not really the flip side, but if we look down here and we start exploring some of these different routes, we start looking at, well, how do we create a new post? And this should be something kind of intuitive. If we want to create a new one, we've got to provide a couple of different routes. We want to get a form that we're going to fill in to create a new post, for example. So these two are really the flip side. Get a form, enter the data, and then send it someplace different. So these routes look very, very similar. Posts and get posts, but they perform very different actions. So every time you want to do any sort of CRUD operation on any sort of resource, you're going to need, oftentimes you're going to need 2 different routes. Another good example of that is the put or the patch or put. Now, I'm not really up on my history, but there are 2 kind of distinct verbs here to update a resource, and we use both of them as though they were synonymous. They're not quite synonymous, but they are. We can either call a put, make a patch or a put request, and this is meant to update the data that already exists. We're going to change it somehow. Probably one of the more simpler ones is the delete, because we don't even have a get. We don't need to fill out a form to delete something. We just need to press a little X or maybe a button that says delete or something similar to that. This one doesn't have a corresponding get. There's no form that we need to fill out. So whenever there's a form, there's a get. Whenever you're changing something, it's a put, a patch, or a delete. If you want to create something brand new, then it's a post. Where things get kind of confusing is that when you're talking about your browser and you're talking about the forms that we create to perform these actions, we really only have 2. We only have get and post. So in order to actually do this, we have to trick the browser and to shoehorn this new functionality into something that didn't exist. And this kind of just gets back to the reality that we're working with stuff that was never meant to do this, and we just made it do it. And that is web development. So to do this, and you're going to notice a couple of interesting things here. I think this is review, but you see these this colon ID. This is what we call a wildcard, and you can put, say, example.com/posts slash 351 or something like that. Doesn't matter. This ID is going to take on that value. So that's how we get the data through the URL. This isn't immediately clear. This should become immediately clear when we start demonstrating what's happening here. The one thing to take away from these slides, though, is that to get this data, it's pretty much identical to what you've already experienced making GET requests with, say, you're doing a search on Google, or you just want to see one specific post. You provided that parameter in the URL. You retrieve that value from the params hash. This is all old stuff. And you retrieve it from the database, which is what's happening here. So whatever has been assigned to here could be 1, it could be 0, it could be 1,326,000 or something like that. It doesn't matter. Whatever you put there is going to be stored in this hash, and you retrieve that value by referencing it with the ID symbol. In this case, we're just looking at one specific post. So we find that one by the ID provided in the URL, and then we render the view accordingly, having retrieved that record from the database. Yeah, so some more stuff with wildcards. It doesn't have to be integer values. It could be just plain text values. It could be anything, right? It depends on what you're trying to do. We're just doing simple RESTful operations. It's pretty much always going to be an ID value, just that unique identifier within the database. Oops. So this is probably the best example, and I can think of a couple of other ones though, but you're going to be performing these operations, and as you saw last day, you're going to run these validations. So using the rocket stove example, we got to make sure that there's actually a link to a YouTube video, presumably. And we also have to make sure that there's a description. If there's not, then we report the error back, and we give the user an opportunity to correct the information that was entered into the form that was provided. Since we're going to be writing errors for all these different things, say you create a brand new post, and you omit some information, it's going to return some errors. Say you want to update your post and you, again, mistakenly omit some information, you're going to need some sort of feedback. You're going to need to have those errors reported back to the user. So when we're talking about these partials, we're basically just using the exact same code over and over again to report errors. Yeah, so we're talking a little bit more about drawing up the view. This all, and this is all code that you should have seen before. So you haven't exactly seen object. In our case, we saw video.errors.full messages, and we just look at every single message that was returned, and we display it to the screen. So, okay, as I said, short slides. It's kind of nice, kind of a fluky nice thing that this fell on Thanksgiving, just because then we have to revisit this on Wednesday for the people who couldn't be here. Yeah, all that to say, it's just a kind of a happy fluke that we're going to be visiting this thing twice, because it's kind of a big subject and it's not exactly something that's intuitive by itself. It's just one of those things you got to see over and over again to gain an appreciation. So let's do a demo. So here's my demo. I've already got my server up and running. Let's make sure it works. And here's another happy fluke. I was trying to show my wife's aunt some of the videos that I did, and I accidentally deleted one of them. So we can solve this problem using this RESTful technique. I need to be able to update this because I accidentally deleted it, and I came back later and re-added it. Of course, the URL changes, so I have to have some way in my application to address this problem. So first thing, let's take a look at our different routes in our actions.rb. It's not quite RESTful, but the things that we're going to be changing, and let's approach this a slightly different way. Let's look at this and see how RESTful it is currently. So here's our get. We want to show everything. This one directly corresponds to this route up here. So it's not quite the same because we're landing right on the home page and we're displaying all the videos. Here it's saying that, okay, well, we should go to this URL. We should go to example.com/posts to be able to do this. There's no hard and fast rules, right? You can change this up any way you want. But so we basically provided this route here. So far so good. Let's come back down to here. This one's a little bit weird as well, because I abandoned this this post/new. So at this point, if I want to create a new video, all I do is I pass it this new on the route, and it will take me there. So to make this a little bit more RESTful, I should probably change this to video/new, and I'm just doing this mostly for consistency, right? It's this isn't a critical thing. It doesn't make it any less RESTful, but by doing this, I've now fulfilled this requirement here, so I can get that form for the new post to create a new post. Scrolling down a little bit further, I find the corresponding post route. So once I've actually filled out the form and I press submit, this is the code that's going to be executed, which fulfills this. So you're going to have to kind of use your imagination a little bit. I don't think this is a big stretch, but wherever you see a /posts, in our case, we're seeing /videos or video or whatever it may be. So I'm looking back here now, and then I've got my helpers for getting logged in and logging out and all the rest. So I'm missing the opportunity to examine an individual post in this route here. I'm missing the opportunity to edit a post, which is a problem because I accidentally deleted one of my videos. And I'm missing the opportunity to actually affect that change. So I'm not able to get a form, neither am I able to press submit and update this in the database. Neither am I able to erase the post if I want to get rid of it entirely. So I'm missing 4 different options. I'm going to sketch those in right now. So here we're going to, let's clarify this a little bit. So this one, show all videos. This one, get form to create a new video. And this one actually creates a new video. I think this is kind of where it gets maybe a little bit hazy to new web developers. You need these 2 corresponding routes. You need something that will provide the form, and you need something that will actually receive the information when you submit the form. And in this case, we're creating a brand new video. So we need to make a few more routes, 4 more routes to be specific. I need to get a form to update a video. we'll just sketch that in like that. And I need update the video. So this is very similar to what I'm doing when I'm creating a new video. I get the form to create it, and I define a route to interact with the database. Same thing here. Get a form to edit the video, update the video, whatever. And I need a route to make those changes. Finally, I need to delete a video. So each of these has its, did I get them all? Which one, sorry?
Find a video.
Find an existing video. Oh, yes, of course. So I've done everything except I've done edit video, update a video, delete a video, but I haven't allowed myself the opportunity to just look at a single video. So I'll sketch that in now. Just show a single video. So there's no interaction when I'm just showing it. I'm just looking at some of the details. Want to see maybe I want to see if it's been where it's been created or updated or last updated, whatever it might be. So along with each of these comes a route definition. So I say get video, /video, and then I pass it an ID. So this is something that, well, let me show you. And just for now, I'm going to show you how this actually gets displayed to the screen. So I'll just return that value. I'm going to retrieve it from the params hash and display it to the browser. So if I come back to here and I say video, maybe the video ID is 100, or maybe it's 1,000. I press 0, 1 too many times. And there it is. It presses 1,000, or sorry, it displays 1,000. And just to show you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an integer. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It could just be a bunch of junk. And I didn't quite get it all. I think it's probably because I put that semicolon in there. It doesn't like that. Let's try that again. There it is. There's the rest of it. I'm not sure what the significance of the semicolon is in this case, but for whatever reason, Sinatra is ignoring everything after the semicolon. So to then display this video, and I think this is kind of the easiest one, we're just going to retrieve it from the database using the information that I've got. So I'll say assign that to an instance variable, search the database using the find method like this. And I don't have it yet, but I'll render a new view called show. Right, so this is a brand new view. It just wants to show you what's actually in there. So now, just so I don't mess anything up, I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to refer to my preparation notes here, and I'm going to create a new view to go along with this video. Because if I do it right now, it's going to say it doesn't know what the view is. Let's give it a try. So I know I've got a couple, and just because I know we're using SQLite, I can say 1 because I've got 3 videos in there. I press enter, and it's not going to have that corresponding view. Oops. Did I not save? I didn't save. Hang on. Let's try that again. This one should throw an error. No such file or directory. And look where it's looking here. It's looking in your workspace, in the app directory, in the views directory, and it's looking for something called show because that's what I told it to render. And if I look back at my workspace, I've got a login, I've got a layout, but I've got no show. So let's actually make that now. Show.erb, and let's give it something to work with. We'll say, let's retrieve the video description using my alligator tags. Video.description. And we'll just make sure that this works. It's not doing anything weird. Press refresh, and we're still not going to see the video, but we're going to see that information that I provided. This was my first rocket stove promo. So, most of this stuff I can just copy and paste. So if I look at the index.erb, I've set it up here in a way that, I can just grab this thing and I can paste it back into my show view. So this is actually going to display the video. I refresh now and I should see something. I should talk to YouTube and it should, get all that information. Oh, what happened here? Undefined local variable. Oops. Any guesses as to what I did wrong? It says video was undefined. Sorry?
You made the frame, but not what to put in it.
Well, kind of. If we look at it, we're doing a little bit of debugging. It says that we got a problem on line 3, and it's saying that this video variable has not been defined. So if I look at it and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this makes a lot of sense here, because I was looking at a whole bunch of different videos and it was assigning a value to video, but this value doesn't exist. What it's actually looking for is that instance variable, because that one has been defined. See, there's a big difference between this one with the ampersand in front of it and the one that doesn't have the ampersand in front of it. The difference there being that the one without the ampersand doesn't actually exist. I never defined that value anywhere. So now if I saved everything, which I think I did, I can refresh, and hopefully this time, well, it didn't crash. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's my rocket stove video. I might want to add a little bit of information because, we're looking at this thing in a little bit more depth. We don't have a lot more information to share. The best I can do in this case is just to look at when it was created and when it was last updated. So I'm going to copy and paste from my notes here and enter that below. And you see what I've done? I've simply, provided that content that's going to be displayed, and I'm using my alligator tags to retrieve the values created at and updated at. So this time, I think I saved. I should see a little bit more. And there it is. So this one was created on October 6th at just past midnight UTC. What does that stand for? Universal Time Code. So not even Greenwich Mean Time. This is the Universal Time Code, which I think actually is Greenwich Mean Time, just if you're interested. So far, so good. We've defined this view. We've fulfilled the requirements to make this thing restful. We fulfilled this requirement here. So we've got 3 more to go. So let's move on to, I think this is probably the next easiest one. We're going to be editing this. We're going to provide ourselves a form so that we can actually change the information that was edited or entered previously. So I think I like to do this. There's no right and wrong, but when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I define the models, I test them first, Then I define the routes, and then I work on to the views. That's not to say you can't start with the views and work backwards. To me, that's backwards, but just do whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm going to come back to action, and I'm going to move down my list a little ways and where I've sketched it in, and I will say put. This also works. Patch, they're synonymous in this case, but I always stick with put. So I will say put video/ID, and I will do this. I want to retrieve it just like I've done up here. Is that right? Oh, no, I skipped a step. What step did I skip? What am I missing? It's something pretty critical from a user experience standpoint. I haven't actually provided myself a form, right? I haven't given myself a way to retrieve a new URL and a new description. So to do this, I'm going to copy and paste my new. Whoops. Why is it doing that? I'm trying to do a right click and it keeps like downloading my new file. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm going to duplicate this one. This would now, just having duplicated it, you know, your dry senses should be tingling right now. It's like, oh, you're doing something wrong here, Dan. Something's up. But I'm going to just stick with this for now. Why does it keep doing that? That's weird. All I want to do is rename this, and we're going to call it edit. And let's make this a little bit more appropriate to what we're trying to do. So I got to refer back to my notes just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Got the same old stuff. Submit. Here's my errors. We've got my video. I'm posting it. I've got my URL. I can enter all that kind of stuff. That's looking good so far. So far, so good. But then I just realized, oh, I missed something. To update the video. So this is this should be get. There we go. And I'm going to refer back to this because I totally screwed this up. So this is the path I'm trying to create. And I'm missing one thing, right? I got to distinguish this from just the regular show somehow. And the restful way to do this in this case is just to stick this thing on at the end to denote that it's editing. There's no significance here. It's just somehow we've got to make this one different from this one here. So I'll fix that. And let's see what happens. So if I want to edit this one, I should get a form. I should have got a form. Did I not save it? Oh, wait. What did I forget? Why is it not displaying the form? Well, I've got the form over here. This is the form that I just created, but I never actually rendered it. Right? So here's how I render it. So I'm rendering the show form here. I want to render the edit view that I just created. Like this. So hopefully this time, when I do it, yeah, it looks pretty good, right? So it filled in the form with the existing information, retrieved it from the database, stuck it into the appropriate input fields. The problem here is, I'm not going to press submit, is that if I do it, if I were to press submit, it's going to send this to the post as though I was creating a brand new video, which is a problem. I don't want to create a brand new one. I want to edit an existing one. This is where things get really weird, and this is just one of those things that if you're interested, you actually just have to memorize. So we've got to find a way to trick the browser into performing a put or a patch. So to do that, and this is pretty much standard across web development, I haven't seen any alternatives. I provide an invisible input field. So this one's hidden, right? So I can just pass data back and forth and the user's not going to actually see it. And this is how I trick it. I say this is going to be a put. So when the browser receives this information, it's going to pass this along to Sinatra, and Sinatra is going to know that this is an update as opposed to making a brand new video. So let's leave that for now. I think that's a good place to depart for the moment. Well, we can try it. So I'm going to, let's just say that, I changed something. This was my first rocket stove promo video. Pretty great. I know. I press submit. It's not going to know what to do because we've only really fulfilled some of the requirements to make this RESTful. It's saying, I don't know this ditty. You've got to provide it. So let's look back at actions.rb. And that's where this one should go. So this is where I define my put. I say put video, and I got to know what video I'm actually editing. So this is where I pass that parameter again. So this is, in this case, it's going to be 1. It doesn't matter what it is, right? We don't monkey with database IDs. And everything I need to do, all the database updates takes place within this block of code. So first thing I want is to retrieve the video from the database. Whoops. This is an existing video. You can do the exact same thing. What's a good way to do this? So I'm using the same kind of strategy as you should be familiar with already. So if I successfully update this, it's going to return true. If it fails for some reason, it's going to return a whole bunch of errors, and skip over this and give the user an opportunity. So I say if update. This is a method called on your active record object. I've only got 2 fields I can update, the URL and the description. Just like that. So if it's successful, then great. Redirect. Send me back to the home page so that I can view the changes. Otherwise, just render the edit form all over again. That way I'll have the opportunity to make some changes if I need to. So let's try it again. And just because, okay, well, actually, we can just leave this the way it is. I press submit. This time it's going to that put route. And if I did everything correctly, oh, no. Did I not save? No, I did save. I think I need a refresh. All right, this is my super wicked first rocket stove video. I press submit, fingers crossed. Calls that put route. What is going on? What did I miss? What did I miss? Edit. Oh, I see. Okay. Can you tell me? Any guesses as to what's happening here? I'm missing a pretty critical step. Now, the reason why it says that this Sinatra doesn't know this ditty is because when I'm updating this thing, I need to know exactly what I'm updating. So I missed a critical step here. I forgot to pass the route, the ID of the video that I want to update. This is a problem on the form, and that problem is right here. So I'm going to use my alligator tags. I'll look at my video, and I look at my ID, and I pass this as now as a part of the route. So put video / whatever the ID may be, that's going to now match up with this guy right here. Before it was looking for something that looked like this. Very subtle difference, right? But it's not going to work if I forget this parameter, if I don't pass this along as part of the URL. So I'll leave that like that, and I'll try to submit once more. I need to refresh, right? So just to show you what's happening here, I made the changes in, oh, this is super big. Here we go. Shrink it down a little bit. You'll notice that the change I made, this is why I need to refresh, right? This stuff like this just happens. I made a change in my view. It hasn't been reflected here yet. This is different from what the browser sees right here. Very different. So I have to refresh. This was my awesome first rocket stove promo video. Submit, fingers crossed. Oh my goodness. Well, there we go. So my very first one should now be updated on the screen. This was my awesome first rocket stove video. So far, so good. So I think we've fulfilled how many of the requirements? We've done all of these ones. We've done this one because we've provided ourselves a way to edit this. Or sorry, this one rather. We provided a way to edit it. And now we've provided it a way to actually receive this data. So we're kind of missing, I guess we're just missing one more thing. There's a few more things that we're going to do here in terms of drawing out our code. But for now, let's try this. Let's come down to here and let's fix this one. So we're kind of in a weird situation, right? And now this is all moving towards providing a RESTful interface. But how do I get to this video? I have no idea what the ID is. I can't access it. I mean, I can make a guess and enter this manually, but it would be far better if I could just look at all my videos and have a link that will show me or take me to a place that will give me this opportunity. So I'm going to go change this up a bit and change each of these headers into a link, which is going to tie in with this route here, because I just want to look at it, right? So I come back, I look at my index.erb, and I'm going to make a very subtle change. So here's my video description. I'm going to change this into a link using href equals video / alligator tag .id. So now I have a link. I've got to wrap all that stuff around that description of the video. So I have something to click on. Press refresh. Now all of these things should turn into blue highlighted text with an underline underneath it if I did it correctly. Oh, I'm not sure what that error message was, but now you've seen the change that I just made here. So now all of these, if I click, it'll take me to the show. Here's my missing one. So now you're doing RESTful stuff, right? The typical way to do this is to show the video and then give an opportunity to edit or delete. So the first one I want to do, because I just want to change it, I don't want to delete anything just yet. I need to provide myself a link. So let's take this, go back to my show view, and that's easy enough. I just say href video. So I'm doing a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Video.id, edit, just like that. Edit video. So I press refresh again. Hopefully, I should see a link appear right at the very bottom. And there it is, edit video. So this should, if I click on it, take me to the form that I created to make these changes. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now things are starting to come together. It makes a little bit more sense right now. This one is wrong. I'll go to my YouTube page and get the correct URL. It's not going. How do I go? I want to go to my account. Maybe I do this. My channel. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the one I'm missing is this one right here. Let's take this out because I needed some way to say hello to all the drones photographing my backyard. This did actually happen.
A drone photo?
Oh, yes, indeed. I've been in a battle with the city about my property taxes, and when I appealed this year, they sent up a drone over my backyard to take photographs of my property, and then the panel of judges at the hearing told me to stop editorializing when I brought this up. So yes, this did actually happen. So I'm just going to grab this guy right here. And I'll come back and make the correction. So before the video was missing because it said that the user removed it, which I did by accident. Looks like everything's okay. So if I scroll down, that missing video should now be, there it is. Wonderful. So what can we do? We can create a new video. We can examine our videos. We can update our videos. Now we need to delete our videos. And we also, okay, we'll get to that in a second. We also need to make sure that our validations are happening as well, but we'll cover that in just a moment. So same thing. We have a problem here. If we want to delete this video, we need to provide that button. And the most natural place, and this is the place that you're typically going to find, is when you click on this thing and you want to just examine the individual video. So I'm thinking, a little button down here, or maybe up here, wherever, it doesn't really matter. I actually do need a button in this case, but I'll give myself the opportunity to delete there. So now this one is kind of weird. When you create a link using this anchor tag, this A tag, it doesn't allow you to specify a get or a post. It's always just a get. So there's really no easy way, or at least no slick way to do this that will be really impressive. But I'm going to create a button. So this is my show view, and I'm going to create a form to wrap this button. So same stuff. You should be sort of familiar with this. We'll say video.id action. Oh, I missed something here. Got to provide it that video path. And I have to provide it a method. So in a perfect world, I'd be able to do this. Unfortunately, this doesn't actually work, right? Because remember, the browser only gives you the opportunity to get and delete. So what you saw before when I was doing the update, the same thing applies here. So I have to trick the browser using this hidden field, or sorry, trick my application by creating a hidden field with a special method parameter. And here I specify what I'm actually trying to do. So I'm trying to delete this guy, and I provide an actual button to go along with this thing. This is just a regular old submit button. And I say delete video.
Does your method name need to be all in uppercase?
No, doesn't matter. This is also the same thing. I just did it because, just to make it clear. Oh, I actually also forgot. This can't be delete. Remember, only get and post. So this has to be post as well. So if I come back to here and refresh, I should see an ugly gray button appear at the bottom. So if you're, a CSS type person, you're going to want to style these things to make them a little bit nicer. Probably you don't want to use links necessarily. You're going to want to use some nice fonts that indicate that these operations will delete or change the resource you're looking at. So if I click it now, it's going to tell me Sinatra doesn't know this, did he? So I have to, use this guy. I'll let Sinatra be helpful because it sometimes is. And add this to my actions.rb file. So we're getting kind of close to the point where we've made a truly RESTful application. Now, I don't want to be editing video number 3 every single time, of course. I want to make that variable. I want to be able to specify which video I want to delete. Delete's probably actually one of the easier ones. I'm not sure which one I said was easy. Maybe edit, but delete's probably the simplest. All we need to do is find the video that we're interested in and destroy it. Video.destroy. And after that, of course, we need to send the user someplace because otherwise it's just going to hang there. The video will be deleted, but there won't be any sort of feedback to show you that it actually worked. So just like with the post request, we're going to use a redirect rather than rendering a brand new view. So we'll grab that guy. We'll try this over again. Refresh, got to refresh because otherwise the form won't update. Actually, in this case, it probably didn't matter. But I say delete video, and if everything worked correctly, I should be redirected back to my home page, and I should only see 2 videos in my feed as opposed to the 3 that I've grown accustomed to. Yeah, there's my first, there's my second one, and now it's gone. Okay. So at this point, everything is RESTful. I would say that this meets the criteria for creating a RESTful application. What we're missing, though, is that feedback. So if I come to here and say I want to update this somehow, let's say I edit it, and for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe I just forgot to enter a description. I press submit. Oh, that one actually did work. Did I do that one? That's on the edit. Oh yes, here it is. So I've created this this helpful little block of code that tells me that I'm missing something. or I entered some data that Sinatra doesn't like. So if I take this one out as well, I submit, and now it's going to give me 2 errors. The URL can't be blank, and the description can't be blank. So this is very similar to when I create a brand new video. If I go back home, oh, I need to log in. So this is all stuff I set up last day. My password is secret. And since I set it up this way using those helper methods, I should see a slightly different view, right? Because it's going to ask, is this user logged in? Change the view accordingly. So it's kind of ugly looking, but I've got this opportunity now since I've logged in to add a new video. If I come to this point and I try to add a new video, what did I do? If you remember really early on, I changed this. It used to look like this, which is what it's expecting. This is what I set it just to, kind of adhere to this RESTful convention. So I need to make a change. I need to change my nav bar so that it actually sends me to video/new as opposed to just regular old /new. And since I'm doing this just because, it's kind of good to see these examples, I'll make that change here, but I'm going to put it in a place that I think is a little bit more appropriate. I'm going to put this in the layout so that no matter what view I go to, I'm going to see these options. So currently, if I go to add a new video or edit a new video, I don't see the nav bar at the top. I have no way to go back to my home page, right? I should see a nav bar up here. So to do that, that's easy. I just copy this stuff, remove it, and place it in the layout because, as you know, the layout is true for all these different views. We're going to have this same block of code wrapping all our different views. So I save. Now this time I should see a nav bar that will take me back home. There we are. And no matter where I go, whether I edit, whether I view it, now I'm gonna be able to navigate my site a little bit better. There it is.
But you don't have a home.
I don't have a home. All right, let's fix that. So here in my nav bar, and this is the kind of thing that you're going to want a home link no matter whether you're logged in or not. So I can take one of these guys and just provide that here. So whether I'm logged in, no matter what I'm looking at now, I should see these. And of course, if you're really into CSS, you can go and spread these out a little bit, maybe align them a little bit differently. But now I have a home button on every single screen. Okay, so getting back to what I was trying to do initially is I want to get these errors. Because no matter where I go, right, whether I'm editing, whether I'm adding a new one, there's an opportunity to leave a blank URL and a blank description, and this is not okay. So if I look at my different pieces of code here, here's my edit, here's my errors. What was the other one? The new. I've got way too many screens open here. Let's get rid of some of these. Which one's this one? Seed data, login data, action data, index, show, edit, and new. Looks like I didn't have new open, but you can see it right there. Here's my errors. Here's my errors. the exact same stuff, right? So I know that I'm doing something, I'm doing more work than I need to. I need to take this stuff and reuse it over and over again. So to do this, we use what are called partials. Distinct from this notion that you have your layouts and then you have the views that get stuck into the broader layout. We can create even smaller little bits of code that will render HTML the same no matter where you go. So I'm going to create a new view. New file, and I'm going to call it error or errors.erb. So if you want to render a view, this is exactly the same way. Well, actually, before I do that, I should grab this stuff, copy this, and put it into my new errors partial view, which is empty. And instead of calling this explicitly or to repeating this code over and over again, I'm just going to render a view much like I would if I were calling this in the route. I use this ERB method. And I pass it errors. So that's the name of the view. This is the one I just created, the partial view. And I pass it a few parameters. So this is going to look a little bit weird. This is just another one of those things that you just kind of have to remember. I need to tell it what's causing the error, right? So I have to pass it this object back. It's going to have all these error messages in it. And I will call this local or locals, sorry. And I don't necessarily have to be using videos, right? It could be something different. Maybe I'm not working with anything. So I'm just going to call it object or obj. And I'll pass it that. So this is not unlike passing a parameter through a method or through the URL. I just got to provide it the data so that it knows what it's looking at. Having made this change, of course, though, errors doesn't know what video is. It knows what obj or the object, just a generic object, because no matter what kind of object you're working with in Active Record, it's always going to have this errors method. And if there are any errors inside of it, it's going to be accessible in the exact same way. So I'm going to take this out and say obj, just like that. So hopefully, now I applied that to which one? The edit view. Yeah, edit. And I also need to apply it to this one here because I want to avoid this repetition. I thought I copied that. Hang on. Nope, didn't copy that. Grab that. And I can take all that stuff out. So I've reduced my line count significantly just by creating a partial view that we can reuse over and over and over again, no matter where we go in our RESTful application. So let's make sure it works. Go to home. We'll try to add a new video. Uh-oh. All right, so we got to do a little bit of debugging here. It says unexpected, comma, when it was expecting a closing parenthesis. So I've got to take a look. Let's take a look in, I'm guessing it's probably here. Oh, no, that's not it. If you see the error, stop me. It was in the new one. New ERB line 2. That's there. Is it in my partial? That looks okay. What am I missing? That looks okay too. Anyone see this? This one looks okay. Video. What am I missing? Oh. Oh, I see it. Okay. I messed up. These values that I'm trying to pass here are actually a parameter that I need to provide to the ERB method. So you guys aren't super used to using parentheses. In this case, this is kind of necessary. But by closing the ERB method prematurely here, I've caused a problem. It was expecting a parenthesis, or it was looking at this comma, and it didn't know what to do, because that parenthesis actually belongs right over here, just like that. So now I'm wrapping all of this stuff into one call to ERB. So I got to make that same change on my edit. That should fix it. Refresh. That's a lot better. Okay, so I submit without any information. My partial view renders those errors. If I go back home and I want to edit, so this is the two places that I've applied it, or tried to utilize this partial view. And somehow I forgot to enter some information. I press submit. That's the exact same partial view. Now, if you're looking at this thing and you're looking at, okay, well, this field here, or these, the edit form and the new form are very similar, so we could also create a partial there. But I'll leave that to you guys. This is all part of your coursework as well. So I think we covered all the points. Let's just take a quick look. So we've got all our RESTful routes. We've collected our data through the URL using this ID parameter in the URL string itself. We've collected it through the params. We've created an errors partial. And yep, we dried up our views, and that's that. So now you guys are going to have the benefit, because you were able to come here on the holiday Monday. We're going to do sort of a light coverage of this for the benefit of those who couldn't be here on Wednesday. But for now, are there any questions? All right. Then you are free to go, and I will summarize all this in the